Hello everyone and welcome back to another Brisbane property market update. This is the first market update for Brisbane that I'm presenting with the 2024 data, and it certainly has started out strongly here in Brisbane. So if we have a look at the initial market snapshot, CoreLogic data says house values increased 1%, unit values 1.1% across the month of January. Remember, these will be settled sales from December with the data rolling through retrospectively. Gross yields for all dwellings sitting at 3.9%. Buyer activity, very high. Buyers have definitely come out of the ranks in the first few weeks of January, and there is a lot of buyer demand. Auction clearance rates sitting at 71.4%. That's off a very low volume throughout January. That's Apollo Auctions data. And we've got listing volumes according to CoreLogic down 17.3% compared to this time last year. And we've got some more specific details in terms of what's happening month to month there in this presentation. So when we do look at those listing volumes, as you can see there, listing volumes are a lot lower compared to last month. So this is SQM research. New listings in Brisbane were down 4.8% in January compared to December, and total listings were down 7.2% month on month. And when we look at the year by year change, total listings were down 17.3%. Year on year. So we are in a very tight supply market here in Brisbane with shrinking volumes of properties available for sale. So that's never a good sign when you've got buyer demand that's increasing, especially if you are a buyer looking to get into the market. It is very competitive out there. Sales volumes down 1.5% at the end of December 2023 compared to 12 months prior. Partly due to the fact that there's been little to buy, but the buyer volume is definitely there, as we've seen in our whereabouts and in our inspections throughout January. So here's a photo just of a lineup to get into a particular property. Buyer demand has been strong, as I pointed out, for the first few weeks in 2024. Auction clearance rates, if we get a month-by-month snapshot, according to the Apollo Auctions data, November had a clearance rate of 63.25% here in Brisbane. December, 57.3%. So buyers went Christmas shopping instead of property shopping throughout December, but bang, straight back in January. And most of this is the last weekend in January, but very strong clearance rates recorded throughout Brisbane. And when we're looking at the days on market, 22% lower than this time last year, according to CoreLogic data. And if we're looking at the actual figures, we were 27 days on market in December 2022 compared to 21 days on market in December 2023. So definitely a faster moving market right now compared to 12 months ago. Let's look at dwelling values. So according to CoreLogic here in Brisbane, across the month of January, dwelling values increased 1%. That actually puts the quarterly change at 3.2% for Brisbane. That's slightly down from last month where the quarterly change was 3.7%. So the rate of growth is actually slowing, but it is still strong month on month. If we look at the median value of a dwelling, and remember this does include units and houses combined, that median value is $796,818. Now, there's been a lot of commentary in the media around the fact that the Brisbane median dwelling value is now higher than that of Melbourne. That does not make Brisbane a more expensive capital city market, because when we look at the house data and the unit data, Brisbane values are still lower than Melbourne. It is just the compositional buyer. That is, Melbourne has more units than Brisbane, and that drags down the dwelling value information. So it's really important that people understand data and don't just rely on the headline information. So we're looking at a median value in Brisbane of $976,818 for dwellings, and that's $9,601 more than last month. And if we look at that on a quarterly change, it's $26,000 more than 3 months ago. And it's really important that buyers understand this rate of change, because if you're looking at comparable sales from 3 months ago, this price appreciation must be considered to come to an accurate determination of value. Looking at the dwelling value information from PropTrack, it also confirms that dwelling values have had positive growth throughout January 2024, and this data confirms yet again that the performance in Brisbane has exceeded the national and the capital city average. The segmentation of dwelling value growth in Brisbane shows now that dwellings in the lower 25% or the lowest 25% of values have outperformed both the middle 50% of property values and the top 25% of properties that contribute to the overall dwelling value data. This is over the last 3 months. Now, that has changed. This is data up to the end of December. That's changed up to the end of November. It was the top end and the bottom end of the market that were moving equally. Now, remember, because we've had such strong performance in the unit segment of the market, and this is dwellings data, that can also have an impact on what this might look like. So units will mostly be captured in the lower priced properties. That's the lowest 25% of property values. So there will be some bias in the data because of this. And we can't automatically assume that the lower priced houses are growing faster than higher priced houses. So that's something to keep in mind when we are looking at data like this. Looking at the national 12-month comparison, the orange bar there is Brisbane, and Brisbane has has had the second highest rate of growth behind Perth over the last 12 months. Now, of course, we don't buy property for the 12-month gains. We really need to look historically at the long-term performance, but this is always important for people to understand how different markets are moving at different times in different ways. You can also see there cities such as Hobart, Darwin and Canberra have had very little growth over the last 12 months. So not all of Australia, not all capital city regions are moving at the same rate, and it's absolutely critical that people understand that so they're not reading into headline data and assuming that that's applying equally across all areas. Let's move on to house value changes across the month of January. So here in Brisbane, house values increased a further 1% over the month. And this is actually a new record high. Over the last 3 months, house values in Brisbane have increased 3.2%. Now, that's down slightly from the previous 3-month period, which was 3.8%. So the rate of growth is slowing, even though the rate is still positive month on month. Brisbane is one of only 3 capital cities that are maintaining a rate of growth above 1% month on month, alongside Adelaide and Perth. All other capital cities are now slowing down in terms of the rate of growth. The median house value in Brisbane, this is all of Greater Brisbane, is now sitting at $888,628. That's $12,637 more than just 4 weeks ago. And that's important for people to understand. This rate of growth is the opportunity cost of delay. 3-monthly growth equates to $28,163 at the median value level. So if you are in the market for 3 months and have not yet purchased, this is the opportunity cost of delay. Let's look at PropTrack data. It also confirms property values here in Brisbane have increased, and it also confirms that Brisbane's growth has been superior to both the national and the capital city averages throughout the country. Unit values in Brisbane have also increased throughout January, up 1.1% over the month. When we're looking at quarterly growth for units, it's holding fairly consistently at 3.2%. So we've been hovering between 3.1% and 3.3% on a quarterly growth rate now for the last 5 months, which is an indication of the strength in the unit market, and it is performing fairly consistently with no real slowdown in that rate. The median value of a unit now in Greater Brisbane is sitting at $568,595. That's $7,579 more than 1 month ago and $16,200 more than 3 months ago. So that just quantifies the rate of growth and the rate of price change here in Brisbane in that unit market. Looking at PropTrack data, again, it does show the same increase in Brisbane, and it also confirms that Brisbane is outdoing or outgrowing both the national and capital city averages. So sometimes the prop track data is actually inconsistent with the CoreLogic data, but this month it is all showing the same price movement. Looking at property value changes, what we can see is that throughout the period when interest rates increased right up to March last year, in March 2023, we did see some months of negative price growth, and those dark bars represent the housing market, whereas the light blue bars represent the unit market. So the housing market was definitely more impacted throughout the latter months of 2022. But last year, throughout 2023, month on month from March, we had positive growth in both the housing market and the unit market every single month. And now that is continuing, as we can see, into the early months of 2024. Looking at vacancy rates. So vacancy rates in Brisbane are currently sitting at 1.2% according to SQM Research. When we have a look, there's been a slight spike throughout December 2023. That's a seasonal spike. It is very common to see vacancy spike between December and January each year, so this is not a concern. Typically, a vacancy rate measures the number of properties that are advertised for rent at a particular point in time, and a lot of tenancies are actually aligned to expire or renew around the December and January peak period. We expect this to be coming down again in February, and we'll be watching this closely. But based on our on-the-ground experience, it is still very difficult for tenants to secure a rental property, and therefore this is why we do understand that this will be a seasonal trend only. Looking at rental price growth, rents in Brisbane in the housing market are up 6.8% over the last 12 months. So we've seen some stabilisation in that rate of growth over recent months, whereas in the unit market, rents are still very strongly growing, 12.6% change over the last 12 months. So Brisbane in the unit market is second only behind Perth in terms of that annual rate of rental price growth. If you are a tenant, it is getting tough with this rental escalation month on month. It is not because landlords are being greedy. It is because there is simply such little rental stock available. And when you have very low supply coupled with high demand, it does put price pressure on any asset, whether that is for rent, whether that is to purchase. It is what we are seeing in both segments of the market here in Brisbane. So just to summarise today, the Brisbane market absolutely remains resilient. It's the second fastest growing capital city market across all of Australia over the last 12 months. We've also got listing volumes that are really tight, and that's not improving. So we're really not seeing any significant shift in the number of properties becoming available for sale. I would say throughout January 2024, buyers have been back with a lot of enthusiasm. It appears that people are more confident with the inflationary pressure coming off, stabilisation of interest rate, and a lot of talk from economists about the interest rates potentially starting to come down again at some stage throughout 2024. That gives buyers confidence and means that they're more optimistic about making big purchasing decisions. And we're certainly seeing that on the ground based on a lot of multiple offers. And in recent weeks, we have been involved in multiple offers on properties where there's been in excess of 10 buyers putting forward a competitive offer to purchase. Every time one buyer purchases, it leaves a further 9 in the market looking for a similar product, and there's just simply not enough properties available of that type to continue to satisfy the demand. And that's why we're going to continue to see price pressure while we do have that imbalance. Properties are definitely selling a lot faster at the moment in Brisbane compared to 12 months ago, and that is driven by low supply and high demand, and also fueled by rising consumer confidence. The low supply environment coupled with high demand will continue to put upward pressure on prices. That's both across the rental market and also the sales market here in Brisbane. I hope that's been a useful summary. As always, if you'd like to connect with us here at Streamline Property Buyers, you're welcome to scan the QR code. There's some amazing free resources that we've included in this link, but you can always book a call with our team to understand more about how we might be able to assist you with a property purchase here in Brisbane. Thank you so much for your time. Bye for now.